Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this program that is designed all about your Kundalini Awakening experiences and perhaps the experiences you haven't had yet, but you might have in the future. So I'd like to welcome you to this program, and I'd like to go ahead and just dive right in as we usually do. And today, I was given the opportunity by my Shakti, by my Kundalini, to talk about a couple of different things. One, they kind of go together. So I'm being given the option to talk about two different things, and they kind of go together, as many things within the Kundalini does. But first, before I do that, I would like to let you know that Santara is in a certain area that is having an internet issue, and she's trying to reposition herself so that she can call back and get online here. We just did a sound check with her, and there was a huge time lag between when, I would say, okay, go ahead, count to 3, and then, I'm counting to 10 before she even starts to count to 3. So I've asked her to call back in, and hopefully she'll be able to do that, and we'll be able to have her blessed voice join our conversation. Second of all, I'm going to ask you to if you have a question and you want to call in, the call-in number is area code 347-934-0026. That's a United States area code 347-934-0026. I'll try not to rock my chair and make that irritating noise like I sometimes do. I'm here in the house. I'm looking out the windows. It's a beautiful 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the West Coast. Looks to be about 75, maybe 78 degrees, and the sun is out, and it's a soft breeze blowing. The flowers are blooming. It is just gorgeous here. And I just wanted to share a little bit of that with you because maybe some of you don't have that type of a situation where you are. Maybe you're deep in the city and you're not able to see a lot of flowers. But I just want you to know that they're out there and they're waiting for you. So if you can get out into the countryside and expose yourself to some of these really beautiful aspects of life and to see the Kundalini in action as the birds and the flowers and the bees and everybody come together and form this great nexus of life that we have on this beautiful world that we call Earth, and some people call it Gaia. It's just a great day to be alive for everybody, I think. So, that being said, the two options that I was given was to talk about extreme phenomena and the lack of evil within the Kundalini, and I think we're gonna kind of start out with the lack of a dark side to the Kundalini. But first, I'm going to attempt to bring Santara on to the program here. Hello, Santara. How's it sounding now? How's it going now?
Well, let's test and see, Chrism. How's that?
Well, aside from sounding like you're in a cave, I think it'll do.
I kind of am.
Okay, all right. Well, welcome to the program, my dear. And first off, do you have any announcements you'd like to go ahead and but before you do that, I would like everybody to know that this show exists because of Amelia Santara, and she is an administrator on almost every single one of the Kundalini Awakening Systems groups, and she has been that way. She's been a part of the group since, I believe, 2009, Amelia? 2009?
2009, Chrism, that's right.
Yeah, under a different name, some sort of pseudo name, because she was kind of going, oh, that Chrism guy, he's just so... the guy's walking on the edge of sanity. I'm not quite sure about him, right?
Something like that.
Okay.
I'm not sure that's changed.
Well, I think that was a correct assessment. Yeah. So, welcome to the program. Any announcements, my dear? And I'm going to pass it on over to Rosemary next.
Okay.
So get ready,
I'll
Rosemary.
make a very quick announcement, Chrism, about where people can go if they would like to make a donation to support the work on Kundalini Awakened Systems and to support Chrism in the work that he does. You can go to a website. It's a Blog Talk website, and you will find a donate button there. And the website is www.kundalini-chrism.blogtalk.com. And all donations are greatly received. And as you all know by now, Chrism works on a donation basis. So all donations are greatly received. Okay, thank you, Chrism. That's it.
Hey, are you in a place?
Okay, guys.
Are you in a place where you can't speak up?
No, I'm deliberately making my voice lower so that it won't vibrate too much. Is it too low? I feel if I talk at my proper, it'll go boom.
No. I appreciate your sensitivity and your kindness and consideration. I'm going to go to the chat room right now where we have some guests here, and I'd like to know. I'm Mary Jean or Phil or Vincent Lana Seeker. Can you tell us if the sound is doing well? We also have Ed Moore and Emma and some guests here. Is the sound coming through okay? And if you could type a yes or a no, we can take care of that right now. It's interesting with Blog Talk Radio. I can't really do a sound check until somebody is in the chat room typing, and so. Oh, sound as well. Emma Travis says fine here. Mary Jean, okay. Thank you, folks. I appreciate that. And let's go ahead and swing it on over to Her Holiness Rosemary. Rosemary Goliath is the president and the CEO and the big kahuna, the head coconut, the top banana in the Kundalini Awakening community in the state of Minnesota, in the Twin Cities of St. Paul and Minneapolis. And I'd like to welcome you to the program, Rosemary.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chrism, for all that. And simplicity, I am the coordinator of these things that happen here in Minnesota.
I like top banana, though. You don't like top banana.
Well, that one will do. I'll take that one. Anyway, my privilege, it is my privilege, and we are having a seminar, as many of you know, here in Minnesota soon. It will be in July 9th and 10th, and it's near the town of Cannon Falls. It's about 50 miles south of the Twin Cities, and it is at someone from our seminar, Prairie, and we will be there at the Prairie for those 2 days. There is everything that we'll need there. We also have rooms, if you'd like, in Cannon Falls. But the Prairie has plugins if you're a camper and you'd like to do that. And my information to tell you even more.
Rosemary, just a second.
Yes.
The other word for plugins that Rosemary is speaking of are called hookups for the RV people. But also hookups for people that want electricity in their tents or things of that nature. Please excuse my interruption, Rosemary. Please continue.
Yes. My information is rosemaryg@usinternet.com, and my phone number is 651-452-3161 or 651-329-9615. And I want to say, well, a couple of things, just one more about the registration. The early registration ends the end of this month, and that's a little bit to help out there. But also my favorite thing that we've done this year is have a special group rate for people that are coming together, we said 3 people. And I think all of us would agree that's an amazing contribution to each other when you have someone who is also on this journey with us. And by coming together, you help each other get to the seminar and then also have this experience together. And your journey is quite amazing. I'm looking forward to that.
Well, I'd like to let people know that we are having this seminar on the Minnesota prairies, and this is a restored prairie. This is a prairie that has been taken away from the commercial farming operations that are so prevalent in the central area of the United States. This is over 100 acres, I believe, that has been given back to divinity, given back to the natural forces, and encouraging the natural forces to take root there and to reestablish there. You know, after all those decades, perhaps of commercial farming, you know, the big crops there are soybean and corn, and you know the staples of that nature, and they weren't grown organic. So the soil was used and abused rather than used and nurtured. And so this restored prairie, I've already toured it. It is beautiful. They have creeks, they have beavers, they have all the animals that are native to the area. They have the plants and the grasses and the flowers and the trees that are native, i.e., they would have been there in the Pliocene era. You know what we're missing really are buffalo and passenger pigeons. Okay, but this is a very special opportunity to take part of the Kundalini, not only the information but also of a Shaktipat, in a natural environment, in the natural environment that is a reflection of the inner natural environment. And so I really want to encourage anybody that can make it to come. I think it's a very good opportunity, and as Rosemary indicated, we have group rates. So if you want to bring a group, and it is fun to be able to share these types of experiences with friends or with family or with spouse, or you know, some kind of an arrangement of that nature. And I want to thank Rosemary, the coordinator, and actually last time I was in Minnesota, Rosemary took me to this restaurant, and we just sketched it out on the back of a paper table mat, and we just sketched out the name of the seminar, where it was going to be done. We both talked it out, and so Rosemary is indeed a co-creator of this event, and I just want to say that I feel very blessed to be able to share this with you and to put this on in coordination with her. Thank you, Rosemary.
Thank you.
And as she mentioned, Rosemary's phone number is 651-452-3161, and her email is rosemaryg@usinternet.com. Is that right?
That is right.
All right, so anybody who's interested, and this goes for the future folks that are listening in the future as they come to the archives, because I know that this is a weekday and that people have to work, and they're probably not off work until 5 or whatever. And so for those of you that are exploring this in the archives, feel free to drop Rosemary a phone call or an email, and we can go ahead and get this going. And I also want to make an announcement concerning the Berlin seminar, the seminar in Berlin, Germany, for the European folks. This is moving forward. We're looking at venues right now, and I believe a venue has been found. I want to really, really give a shout out of thanks to Manisha, for coordinating the effort in the country of Germany to bring Kundalini Awakening to Berlin, the once divided city that is now not divided anymore. And so maybe we can help some people become less divided and at oneness within themselves by virtue of the Kundalini and the Kundalini Awakening within them. And so many thanks to Manisha. And for those of you that are in Europe, like Amelia Santara and a few other folks here, come and see us, come and join us, and promise to make it a very, very worthwhile experience. All of these in-person seminars. It's very different when you're in person, that way. And do you have anything to add, Amelia?
Yeah, Chrism, just to let people know, it's the first Saturday and Sunday in September. Saturday the 3rd and Sunday the 4th.
First Saturday and Sunday in September 2016. So that's coming up in just a few months. And so I just want to say thank you to Amelia for that. And thank you to Rosemary for that. And I'm going to go ahead and get moving on this. It's a fairly strong subject that I want to talk with you about today. The Kundalini does not have a dark, shadowy, evil expression in my understanding and my experience of it. The darkness and the evil expression really is in a person's resistance to the many changes and the many extreme phenomena that can come when a person encounters the Kundalini. And the extreme phenomena isn't just bad stuff. It's amazing levels of love and beauty and happiness and joy and bliss. And I've worked in the medical field for a number of years in my mid-20s, and I know what an intake, like a medical intake, is, say, for a clinic or a hospital. And my intake at those times would have been clinically depressed. I was a clinically depressed young man because I was born with a certain level of Kundalini that was actively giving me phenomena since I was born, and nobody else could really relate to me on virtually any of those levels. And so for much of my life, I was in a level of denial of those phenomena, and yet as the phenomena would occur, it pushed me right out of my denial. Now, when the Kundalini came to this physical expression, to my body that I have right now, it wiped out the depression. That's one of the first things that it did, was wipe out my depression. I felt complete. I had at oneness. I felt really, really blessed. And I was able to smile again and not worry about, if my teeth were straight or, if my mustache was, perfectly aligned or, whatever kind of a of a problem that I was imagining that I was having at the time that would lead to me not smiling or not feeling happy. It obliterated that depression, and it will, and I've seen it happen for other people too. Kundalini is an extremely positive event. It's positive to the degree that it's life-changing and world-changing in the eyes and experience of the person that's having it. It can get complex, and it can become frightening only because the amount and the severity of the changes that come can be overwhelming for people. And in our society here in the United States and in Canada and in Europe and in South America and in Australia and in Asia, many parts of Asia, not all Asia. The Tibetans know about this, and certainly some of the people on the Indian Peninsula know. Some of the people, a small fraction of the people, know about this, and so there's not a lot of information going around. And these days, everybody that has a penny in their pocket, is a Kundalini master, right? And it's the next big wave of the new age thing to come, and it's going to be very hard to find appropriate information. But that's better than having absolutely zero information, which is what was going on when my body got hit with activation and spinal sweeps. There wasn't anything, and there are very few books. Gopi Krishna wrote some books that you can still get over there in Barnes and Noble or Amazon. And Kundalini, the Evolutionary Energy in Man, and some of the other books that he wrote as well. He, as far as I know, was the only author that was specifically dealing with Kundalini. And after about 10 years, was it 10 years? Oh my gosh. No, after about 12 years of being inside the process, I came upon his books, and I was able to look at his books and go, oh, wow, I have all those phenomena, those signs, and those symptoms. And I was really able to put a name and a word to to what the Kundalini was. And that really, really helps a person. It certainly helped me to be able to surrender to the Kundalini. Once you have a modicum of understanding, it is much easier for a person to surrender into this grace. And once you surrender into this grace, this is when the joy can really come. Although even though you're not surrendering at first, when it wipes out your depression, that's quite a big deal for a person that have had depression most of their life that they had lived at that time. And to have that lifted is a level of bliss in and of itself. And the Kundalini did that for me. And as I've said before, I've seen that happen with other people too. And so I want to really encourage you to understand that Kundalini is mainly a positive force. It's a positive force of change that we have very little information about in the Western societies. And because we don't have information about it in the Western societies, the fear of the unknown comes upon us when the Kundalini comes upon us. And that fear, it's the difference between watching TV and being in front of the camera on television. I'm sitting here in this living room and I'm staring at this TV. It's off. Watching TV is really easier in the comfort of your own home or wherever you're living, and you can just kind of like, you can take your shoes off, you can relax. But when you're on TV, it's a very, very different deal. And that's that level of differentiation pales in comparison to the difference between having Kundalini and not. And because that lack of information, still exists in the Western world, this is why I'm so grateful to Santara Kundalini or Amelia Santara for putting this program on, for allowing the populations, if they're so guided by their divine within, to come and listen, that they can begin to assimilate information that pertains directly to their Kundalini Awakening situation. And so, as that information comes through, the fear is dissolved. Now Kundalini itself is not dark. It does not have a shadow force because it's not completely dual. And it's non-dual and dual at the same time. It's here and over there at the same time, which is a level of bilocation. Kundalini weaves itself into a person's life experiences. And she begins, the sacred mother aspect of the Kundalini. You have sacred father, sacred mother. The ancient Sanskriti people called them Shakti and Shiva. Shiva being sacred male, Shakti being sacred female, sacred mother. And just as a human is gestated before they're born by their mother, so are we also gestated by the Kundalini. But her gestation is very different. The gestation that we experience from the Sacred Mother with regards to Kundalini is the actual transformation of all 5 expressions of the human being, the physical expression, the mental expression, the emotional expression, the psychological expression, and the spiritual expression. All 5 of these human expressions are transformed, sometimes at the same time and sometimes one after another. And if you don't have information about what is occurring and why all of a sudden you're getting spontaneous body positioning, or your diet is changing radically, or you're feeling the top of your head like somebody, a bunch of little elves are dancing on top of your head, or your body is consumed in heat and you feel a level of burning all over the top of your skin, but it's not so bad that you're in pain all the time or anything, but it's definitely a tactile experience. You can feel it. All of these things, when they happen to a person, if they have no information about that, it's going to put them into fear. That's what happened to me. And it doesn't matter if, in the past life or the couple of past lives, you have the Kundalini, and because the Kundalini travels with you from life to life. Once Kundalini is awakened, it never goes away, regardless of the corporeal system you're expressing through. You always have it. and you'll always have the phenomena that comes with it. But you won't necessarily have any of the information about it. That's what you have to reactivate and reawaken, is the level of connection in this body, in this society, at this time, on this world. You need to connect with the Kundalini here so she can begin to educate you and begin to transform you into a Kundalini awakened individual, basically semi-divine, within this society, within this area, and within this level of karmic redemption that you're currently involved in. Okay, and so a lack of information feeds fear. Fear will feed panic. Panic can take a person from having a beautiful, wonderful Kundalini experience straight to the psych ward, because a person doesn't understand the experiences that they're having. And so that can lead a level of darkness, a level of shadow, a level of hurt into the Kundalini awakening experience. And the least amount of resistance that you have for the Kundalini can offer you and engender within you a very, very, very positive experience. And so the idea is, yes, there will be strange occurrences happening to you. But that's not darkness. That's not evil. That's not shadow. That's just new experiences of life coming to you because you are ripe for that now. Kundalini doesn't come to an individual accidentally. You are ripe for that now. And when the student is ready, the teacher arrives, and that teacher, the ultimate teacher about this, is the Kundalini itself. So there is no darkness associated with Kundalini. There is no evil. And I know, some of the people are going to say, oh, what about Kali? The Kali, this goddess that was created within the Hindu belief system to destroy all the other gods for whatever reason. I forget what that reason was. I don't know. They must have had a misunderstanding. So they created a demon to consume the other gods and goddesses that they were having a misunderstanding with. Not exactly the most harmless way of dealing with the issue, I would say. It's kind of like it's kind of like bacteriological warfare, really. But anyway, Kali is not herself a vindictive, horrible deity either, although she's depicted that way. If you look up Kali, spelled Kali, if you Google that, and then you go into the images option that you have there, you'll see some fairly, challenging pictures of Kali holding a decapitated head in one hand and various other things like a sword or something, a bloody sword, of course, in the other hand. And this is really human egocentrism disguising itself as expressive divinity in order to instill levels of fear and respect in a population that a group of individuals would want to control, such as the ruling caste or the ruling religious organizations within the country of India, and the ancient India as well. And so, once again, this is humanity instilling fear into the Kundalini process, not the Kundalini. Now, let me know if I'm talking too fast here. Anybody on the... I'm going to ask Ed. Ed Moore, too. Am I talking too fast for you, Ed, or Elizabeth, or Emma? Let me know. Type out. Anybody can type out if I'm talking too fast, because I have a lot of information I want to cover, and I don't necessarily want to confuse people by talking a mile a minute. Good. Okay. Very good. Thank you, folks. Thank you for responding. So as the humans initiated certain power desires, the desire to control populations, the desire for self-aggrandizement, the desire to be the top banana, as Rosemary is, who doesn't desire it. I just kind of gave her that assignment. This is when a group of ego would form an egregore, and that egregore, which is a consciousness that is formed from multiple subconscious, not subconscious. If you have like 10 people saying, okay, we're gonna use Kundalini as a way to control populations, and so those 10 consciousness would form one consciousness with that one aim in mind. And as that egregore began to spread itself through the religion, well, then people begin to fear the Kundalini. They begin to fear it, and they would associate it with evil or with darkness or with hurt or with challenges. And of course, with very, very little information coming through, because the ruling caste at the time would dole out very little information and just basically use that lack of information as a way to augment their power base. People were left stranded with Kundalini, and very much in the same way that people these days are left stranded with the Kundalini through lack of information, lack of understanding. And so over the centuries, Kundalini earned this, incorrectly, earned this reputation of being a dark, evil force. And then, if you add the snakes and the spiders into the mix, oh my gosh, anybody had a snake or a spider phobia, well, then that just made it 10 times worse, because both snakes and spiders have the ability to kill us. Not that they want to kill us, but they have the ability to protect themselves in a way that can mortally wound a human being. And speaking of spiders, we have a recurring guest, and her name is Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez, and her Kundalini is in a very, very strong and communicative position within her. And let's go over to Elizabeth right now and say hello to Elizabeth and La Araña, which is Spanish for the spider. Hello, Elizabeth. Uh-oh. Is this the wrong number here? Elizabeth, I don't hear you.
No, that's right. That's
what?
the right Chrism. That's the right number. She's obviously on a bathroom break.
Bathroom break.
I'm right here. Hello.
Did you finish up the business there, girl?
I've been here the whole time. I don't know what. Hello.
Hey, can you get a little closer to your microphone?
Yeah. How's that?
That's much better, much better. And I just want to say hello, a beautiful Wednesday afternoon to you and to La Araña. And and I just want to open the mic to whatever she would like to say.
Well, why she typed in, asked me to type in a couple of minutes ago, or a few minutes ago, you were talking about the Kundalini not being dark, and she started talking about, oh my gosh, yes, the majority of humanity is afraid of spiders. Children will, and my child will actually say, come and get this spider, it's evil.
Sorry, guys.
And I always say to her, what makes you think... Hello?
Me?
Yeah, you need to stop rocking.
Oh, the chair.
Thank you, Amelia. Sorry. My bad.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Anywho, she was just saying in my head that the majority of humanity is afraid of spiders. As they said to me in Peru, they don't understand why. They're here to help us, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, they can be venomous, but they're protecting themselves. But when you were just talking about the Kundalini not being dark, she was just saying, yes, why? Even children, she's saying, because my child says spiders are evil, they're horrible. I mean, and it's just I guess it's just their appearance. Or when we were in Peru and different people's Kundalini was acting out in physical kriyas, whether it was a spider or the snake, or it appears, it's the appearance of it. She's saying that people perceive as dark or evil. I think it has a lot to do with our media and the way that, horror films are always about some creepy, hairy spider or, but even children, if they're not taught properly, they don't understand that spiders are good and that spiders do good things in the garden and that, you have to teach them that they're not evil and that they're not here to harm you. And they just want to be, for the most part, left alone,
Well, especially if you're dealing with children, you need to tell them not to pet the spider.
Well, or they could pet them, but not, not to scare them, because that's when they're going to bite or they're going, if you're, and you could accidentally sit on one or stand on one and get bitten, but that she's saying they're protecting themselves.
I remember walking into a house one time, and I was walking in through the dark, and I walked right through a spider web, and I knew it was on top of my head, but I couldn't find it. It was a huge spider, and every time I feel with my hand on top of my head, the spider would move.
Oh.
I tell you what, I didn't kill it. I did not want to kill it, but I didn't know what kind of spider it was. I didn't know. I knew it wasn't happy where it was. But I finally just shook my head over the balcony, and the spider came off. It was like, oh my God, oh Lord, yeah, it can be very surprising.
Yeah.
Well, I support Laranja completely with that. She's absolutely correct, and it goes with the serpents as well. I mean, when you say the media, well, the media is such a fear-mongering type of informational outlet. Even last night, I was reading the 20 most venomous snakes in the world, and the way they're phrasing it is like, wow, it's like you step 1 foot into the wilderness and all the snakes are going to come and hunt you down, and it's just not
exactly.
It's not the case at all. I saw, just some weird stuff you see on the internet. Men are just 12-year-old boys in different bodies, it seems like, to a large degree. Getting a praying mantis and getting a black widow together and having them do battle, right? And I watched this full of compassion for both beautiful creatures, just amazing level of cruelty. And neither of them wanted to fight. Matter of fact, that little kid or man or whatever he was couldn't get them to fight. They would not fight each other for the enjoyment of some immature, 40-year-old or whatever was happening with that. And it is the media that really promulgates a level of fear into the insects and into the serpents as well, but also into the Kundalini. And before I feel like a whole wave of information coming right now, but I don't want to interrupt Laranja, because Laranja is the sacred divine, and please allow her to continue.
No, that was it. That was when you were just talking about that. She just, wanted me to say that, what I said already. So go ahead.
Well, I want to say many, many thanks to Laranja and for her presence in our lives, for her presence within the Kundalini, and for the information that she's giving us about spiders. I never knew that spiders enjoy to be sung to, or to have a person sing to them, and that is almost like a massage that they're given. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. And speaking of, I was petting, when I was singing to a spider that Brooke had asked me to get out of the shower in Peru before she showered. People started asking me, could you come, sing this spider out of the bathroom for me? And I was petting it, and it was very, I don't know if it was venomous or not, but it was not. It was just so relaxed from the singing, and it was actually letting me stroke its back. So, and it did then go up into the ceiling and let her take a shower, and did not show herself again until she was done.
Wow. Well, it's interesting you say that. I'm going to go ahead and bring Brooke online with this. And hello, Brooke.
Hi, guys.
Hey, was it a big, huge, hairy spider?
It was. It was pretty big, guys. It really was. First thing I did was run to Elizabeth. No, I mean, it wasn't doing anything. And then Elizabeth reassured me. She said, Brooke, I had a discussion with it, and it's not going to move the whole shower. And it didn't. It stayed right where it was. So, yeah.
Did you have your eyes glued to it the entire time?
No, I really didn't.
Uh-oh, I lost her. Wow, I lost her and Elizabeth at the same time. I lost her, I lost Elizabeth, and I lost Amelia Centaura at the same time. I still have Rosemary and Joey on the phone. Isn't that weird? How messed up is that? I wonder if I lost anybody in the chat room here. It looks like everybody's here. Maybe that's a sign that I'm just to get on with the show here. So, maybe that's a divine sign saying, stop talking about the spiders and showers and get on with it. Okay. Oh, I see Elizabeth came right back. I'm going to wind that up.
My phone hung up on me.
Well, not only you and Brooke and Amelia left all at the same time. So I think you got bumped.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, does Lorania have anything she'd like to add to this? Because I really value her input and your input, because literally you're channeling Kundalini. Now, I hate to use the word channeling. You're receiving Kundalini straight through the Lorania. So what else would she like to say, if anything?
I think about this topic.
Yeah.
I think that was it. It's just the visual appearance of things on this plane make people believe, and things that they've been programmed to believe, and how we get out of that and change that is just by educating ourselves and going out in nature and maybe communing with a spider or a snake or anything, a tree for that matter, although people don't typically see trees as dark, but you never know with all the witchcraft movies and whatnot. So, but that's, basically, try before smashing said spider, snake, or running from it or whatever. First, try maybe talking to it, or just sitting with it, or trying to understand more about it,
Well, Lorania is the first. Lorania gave some information to you, and you gave it to us about singing to spiders. Never, ever, ever occurred to me. I've had spiders come down on the wall and just kind of sit next to me on the wall, and I know that they are hunting spiders. And I've heard them scream or shout really loud. I've heard that with my Kundalini ears. And and I think that they do that to kind of freeze the prey, I think is what they do.
Yeah.
But does she have any idea how snakes like to be communicated with? Yeah.
She's saying it's the heat, the vibration, like more through vibration or heat.
Well, I know they've got the flute players in India that'll do the snake charming type of thing, and I wonder if it.
Yeah, music is vibrational. Singing is, and it's the same with the spiders with the singing. It's the vibration. I think that they like, and I have a song now which I'm not going to sing, but it's the same song that I sing to the baby spiders now when I take them out of the house. I sing the same song, and I think it's the timbre of the song. I think it's the notes that it's in and the timbre of my voice when I sing it, that's the song. So I keep using that same song because it seems to be the timbre, the pitch of that song, that's all vibration. So I'm thinking maybe maybe singing to snakes would be good too.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense, especially when you look at the flute charming, that's done in other parts of the world as well. So, well, thank you very much, Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez, and thank you very, very much, Laranya. And I'd like to welcome you, everybody, back next week, and we'll hear more from Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez and Laranya. And I would also like to welcome back at this time Brooke and Amelia, who have just recently joined us back. And I apologize. I don't know what happened. But something happened. And thank you, Elizabeth.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, and so this is very real. This stuff. I know it sounds kind of like cartoonish or airy-fairy, talking, singing to spiders, singing to snakes. Well, let me tell you, this is a real deal. This is a real deal. When I sing, and I'm a trained singer, I'm a professional singer. I've sung professionally in my life, but when I sing, I tend to attract animals to me. I don't know if it's because I sound so good or I sound so bad that they're just coming. Maybe I sound like I'm in pain to them. I don't know. But I do tend to attract creatures when I sing. And Lasha, my cat, as soon as I start singing, she comes over and sits on my chest and stares at me. If I'm in a seated position. And so singing and the vibrational aspects are a very, very strong and real conducive form of communication. And the voice, as Elizabeth is suggesting and Laranya, is really all about vibrations. And I want to say thank you to Sylvia Giza for her kind compliment on my voice. Continuing on, and so with this lack of information, people can develop darkness, and whether that lack of information is human created or just because the person doesn't have any information. By human created, I'm talking about, say, religious people that are concealing the truth in order to have power over other people. Information in the Kundalini context is power. And if you deprive a person of that power, it's quite a karmic sin. And Sylvia Giza is saying, I am looking for more music. I love your music. Oh, very nice. Very, very nice to say. And I do have one CD that is out now. And if you're interested in the CD, I would like you to contact our top Kundalini banana, and that would be Rosemary Kalash in Minnesota. And once again, her number is 651-452-3161, and she can hook you up with a CD. And she'll mail it to you. And I believe that if it's nationally inside the United States, it's one price, and it's not inexpensive. I am not allowed to charge an arm and a leg for these things, and I wouldn't anyway. But if it's overseas, we have to add $3 to $4 for shipping charges. So just so you know that. Vibration is a huge deal within the animal kingdom and the communication with the animal kingdom. You just look at whales. These whale songs. Well, these are vibrations that travel underwater, great, great, great distances. And that frequency of vibration, I'm sure, is not just communicating whales, for other whales. All the other creatures in the sea are also partaking of that communication, and I believe it's also a healing for the ocean that the leviathans are giving, to the ocean as humanity continues to cripple the ecosystems within the ocean. So this darkness is through lack of information. The more information you have, the more joyous and happy and stupendous the Kundalini can become. But you're going to have to keep up with this, because as you surrender and give yourself more and more and more into the Kundalini transformation that is happening to you, greater levels of phenomena will come. And as greater levels of phenomena come, you're going to have to be able to adjust to those greater levels. So let's just take the spontaneous body positioning, the Kriyas. That's spelled Kriyas, Kriyas. This will force you into certain bodily positions that you would not normally go into. And so here we go. Now we have an unseen force that is taking control of your physical body, placing it in a position against your will for a certain amount of time, for a reason that you don't know. And what is that going to do with your psychology? What is your ego going to do with that? Well, it's going to go into fear, typically. Not always, but typically it will go into fear with that type of a phenomena. And unless you have information about Kriyas, unless you know that, oh, this is a normal part of my Kundalini Awakening equation, you're going to have a problem with that. You're going to go into fear. You're going to, these days people will look on the internet and if they ask the right question, well, they'll get the right information. The spontaneous body positions and Kriyas, that would typically be an easy answer to find. What would not be so easy would be having your skin feeling like it's burning all over you at the same time. Bottoms of the feet, top of the head, the chest area, the back area, the leg area, all the private areas, all over the place. You're looking at that and you're kind of going, oh my God, this is terrible. I must have some sort of a disease. And because we don't have this information, we go straight into the medical trauma scenario, and we visit the MD, and the MD can't measure anything because we don't have Kundalini-ometers in our ERs at this moment. And so people don't know, and the doctors don't know. And they say, oh, well, Mr. What's your name? Oh, Mr. Chrism. Yeah, I think you're just having an anxiety attack. And here's some selected serotonin reuptake inhibitors. We're just going to channel some new grooves into your brain, and hopefully that will take care of that issue for you. And of course it won't take care of the issue. Matter of fact, it makes the issue much, much worse, because Kundalini is constantly seeking to place the body into balance as it gives transformation upon the body. So the reason why you're having the Kriyas, the automatic body positioning, is the Kundalini is placing itself into the fiber, the muscle, the bone, the blood of the individual, and bringing it into balance at the same time. Okay, and so as greater levels of heat or cold, and it's not just the heat. You can feel like your whole body is freezing as well. Heat is associated with sacred male, and freezing cold is associated with sacred female. Okay, and both of those aspects of the Kundalini will take their turns. Sometimes they'll do it both at the same time. You'll have one side of your body freezing and the other side of your body melting to some degree. Not in a painful way, though. And so that lack of information causes a person to go into fear, causes people to go into what is known as Kundalini syndrome. And I've done another show on Kundalini syndrome. And really, all Kundalini syndrome is Kundalini phenomena mixed with lack of information, which develops panic within the person, which leads people to do very strange things when they're panicking. What we need to understand is that the Kundalini is a benevolent, beautiful, kind, considerate, transformative force within each individual that it awakens within. People go through tremendous levels of change. And these levels of change do not necessarily converge or agree with what the person has experienced in their life up to this point. People are forced to change. People are forced to trust. People are forced to surrender. But if you know about this, the forcing isn't a big deal. Getting acclimated to the changes can still be a big deal. If you're used to having a strong career, you worked 8 to 6 Monday through Saturday, making good money. You've got the nice place, you've got the nice set of wheels, you've got the nice clothes, you've got the a well-stocked refrigerator. You're doing good. You're succeeding in life according to what life in the unawakened, mundane United States, Western Europe, Australia, and South America. You are on the upper edge of say middle class, or coming into maybe the wealthy class, and then Kundalini comes along and demands everything from you. She takes away your job, takes away your place, perhaps takes away your car, like she's taken away my cars now, at least for the moment, until I get my courage up to see if I can fix them myself. She'll take everything away from you, and you'll be sitting there spinning in your shoes going, what the heck just happened? And if you have the information about what the heck just happened, that Kundalini Awakening has come to you, then you can metabolize this much easier. It doesn't mean your ego won't shriek and scream. Your ego will shriek, it will scream, it will not want to do these things, and so it will resist. And when you resist the Kundalini is where people go into pain with it. People go into pain with the resistance to the Kundalini. You got to remember, Kundalini is a divine force. It's an extremely powerful force, extremely powerful, and it needs to be powerful. And Phil Karuba is saying you must train your mind to let go of everything you fear to lose. That's right. Phil Karuba is absolutely correct. The fear of loss and the want of gain must go out of your psychology. The fear of loss and the want of gain. And that's extremely important so that you begin to come into the Kundalini in a very balanced format where you're not operating from ego wants and desires or ego's fears of loss. You take those two things out of the equation, and wow, you are on a very, very, very beautiful, beautiful experience. So essentially, Kundalini is a very positive thing. It is not dark. There is no darkness to it. The only part that becomes dark is when people put darkness into it. And yes, you have very, very strong phenomena. Your life, in many ways, your life has completely changed and continuously changed. And when you're not used to trusting, say, an unseen force that is, you may not be able to see it physically. Sometimes you can, actually, by the way. She'll appear to people. She's appeared to me different times, in different ways. She's appeared to me as the woman in red. She's appeared to me as the 14-year-old child dancing in the street. She's appeared to me as a cat, as a so many different some things I can't even find words for. So she will appear to you, but you'll have to surrender to what you see. You'll have to surrender to it, and it's the surrender part that is really, really difficult. I've done another program. If you go back into the archives of this show, I've done a program on Kundalini and surrender, and I do suggest that you listen to that. But the surrendering is really one of the most difficult things that you can do, that you can partake in, because it involves letting go of the world as you once knew it to be. And a lot of people are addicted to science. Rightfully so. I mean, this computer I'm talking on was created through scientific method. Okay, and I'll suggest that all the computers that everybody listening to this program right now, is a product of science. And so when Kundalini comes along and takes away your scientific confidence by doing things that are beyond physics, that are beyond science, well, your world can be thrown into a bit of confusion and fear because of that. But this will occur for most folks that are having the Kundalini, and I just want to encourage those folks that are having the Kundalini to surrender completely. There is not a shred of harm that she is pumping into you. She is giving you grace. She is giving you joy. She is giving you bliss, happiness, ecstasy, semi-divinity. And some of those qualities that she gives to you are acidic skills as well. These exalted skill sets, such as telepathy or healing or clairvoyance or clairaudience or psychokinesis or psychometry or the ability to bilocate, the ability to levitate. These are all activities of the awakened Kundalini within an individual. You can do this, folks. Each one of you can do this, can have this, if you just surrender to her grace within you as she changes you. So those of you that had that very successful career, and now you seem like you have nothing, and you're still in the mindset of, oh my God, it's like it's 10 o'clock in the morning. This is morning break time. This is the 15-minute smoke break, coffee break, whatever. I remember those days. I remember those days when I had an 8 to 5 or 8 to 6 or 8 to whatever. You get these breaks. I think some people call them union breaks because the employer wouldn't just give you that break. And so you're still in that programmed state of mind where I should be doing something constructive. I should be doing something. I should be working right now. I should be making money. But instead, here I am stuck in this ashram in this city of Santa Rosa in the state of California, the country of the United States, and I'm not doing anything except having these kriyas or having my inner landscape changed. And you're not going to be able to understand it. You're not going to be able to make it fit the old paradigm. And it shouldn't fit the old paradigm. Matter of fact, it should, if it does fit the old paradigm, it's not the Kundalini. You can't have the old paradigm and bring in the new paradigm at the same time. Semi-divinity will trump mundane expression. So your mundane life is no more. The mundane life you can see is kind of the fruit ripening on the tree. Once that fruit falls to the ground and begins its new job of growing another tree, or doing what the fruit does, it feeds nature, it grows other trees, it expands itself. Literally, the tree is expanding itself with the fruit. Once the Kundalini does that with you, it will expand you. You'll never see a pear jump back up to a tree branch. Now maybe Santara has seen that because she lives in Ireland, and they have very strange things happening in Ireland. Have you seen a fruit jump back on to the branch without human help there, Santara?
Yes, Chrism.
What?
Yes.
You have?
No, it's not at all, of course.
Was it a leprechaun? Thank you. Thank you, Satar. So the fruit won't drop back onto the branch. It won't. Unless you're out there with duct tape and you pick up the pear and you duct tape it to the branch. Okay, but that's human involved. The human did that. And you are that fruit, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen of the Kundalini, you are that fruit. Sylvia and Vincent and C.L. Morgan and Mary and Emma, Elizabeth, Ed, Alana Seeker. You are that fruit that is not going to jump back on to the tree. You are a permanent expression of divine expansion within the body that you're living in right now. And so the more you surrender to this divine expression, this divine expansion, the greater your life is going to be. The more adventurous, the more interesting, the more loving, the more caring, the more kind, the more service-oriented, the more divine your life is going to become. And I really want to encourage everyone to surrender to that force within themselves, regardless of how successful your career was as you were that fruit on that branch, growing ripe for the Kundalini to pick. Okay. You need to surrender to the Kundalini and surrender to the new life that she is giving you, and it's not going to be the same way as your old life. Yes, there will be some similarities. You'll probably still wear clothing. If you're here in the United States, you'll still wear clothing. You may still drive a car. You may still have to pay rent and phone and electricity, and you may still need to eat food, and you may still need to exercise yourself and get out in the sun and sleep at night and do all these things. But you'll also have to do other things. You'll have to do that Kundalini practice that she may put you into. If she gives a Kundalini Awakened teacher to you, well, then you're going to want to do what that teacher suggests that you do as well. You're going to have to surrender to this because it's not going to go away. Kundalini does not go away. And if you drug yourself into stupefaction, you'll just have to deal with this very same thing the very next life. It doesn't go away. And God bless it for not going away, for not abandoning us because, you know, we're just little 2-year-olds complaining to mommy and daddy that I don't want to do this. No, as they love to say. No. Sylvia, you go ahead and ask your question, my dear. I'll read it online on the air here. So it's very important for that surrender to take place. And you'll be changed from your teeth to your inside organs, to the top of your head, to the shape of your skull. You will be changed. Your hormones will change. The viscosity of your blood will change. Your feelings will change. But they typically change for the better. But they may not. These changes may not line up with the centers of pleasure that we have grown accustomed to chasing in our lifetime. And this is Sylvia Giza just wrote this question. Dear Chrism, I went to the dentist and he gave me this as anesthesia, lidocaine, HCI 2%, and epinephrine. Epinephrine, Oops. Don't keep typing. You know, it's not like I'm not like a speed racer here when it comes to reading this online. You got to give it a break here. And I got sick almost. Well, I'm going to suggest it was the epinephrine that made you sick. I don't know why I'd give you epinephrine. 2 shots 1 week ago, and he blocked my mouth. Stop typing, please. Blocked my whole right side of the nervous system by this shot. Yeah. And my Kundalini was not moving in the body for 5 days. It was moving, you just couldn't feel it, Sylvia. And first 2 days I got a big joint pain. Next 2 days sore throat. Next days nerve pain in my back. Big. 3 days I could not move and breath short. I eat healthy, so I think this is from the dentist. I would agree. I too have gone to the dentist, and I too have received the lidocaine is just, you know, that just numbs the skin. I don't know why he gave you epinephrine. That doesn't make any sense to me. That would just give a lot of anxiety into it. But then again, I'm not a dentist, so I wouldn't know about how that works. But I know that your Kundalini obviously didn't agree with it, obviously. And that is something that you may want to consider if you go to another healthcare practitioner, Sylvia. Make sure that perhaps epinephrine is not part of a chemical regimen that they give to you. Sylvia continues, and she says, and I got to visit the doctor tomorrow to check if this is from that, but I know what they will say, of course. Not. I just want to let you know, maybe you can talk. Oh my gosh, now she just typed something here. And it's like, every time you guys type something on this, it shoves it up, and it's hard for me to scroll up. And I would appreciate why all shots are totally not healthy for us. And the other thing that the doctor told me recently, and I knew that before, that I got hypothyroid, and he gave me hormones, levothyroxine. I took it from the pharmacy, but I got something. Okay, but you got a resistance for that, I think is what you're saying. Yeah. Certainly. Right now, I just need to say this on air. I am not a medical doctor in any way, shape, or form, and I am not giving anybody medical advice in any way, shape, or form, and this should not be interpreted as medical advice in any way, shape, or form. If it were me or if it were Lasha, my cat, I would totally resist the hypothyroid medication, and I would suggest that you check with your Kundalini first if she wants you to have anything. And if it were Lasha or myself, I would say go with what the Kundalini tells you to do, and she will give you indications. She won't typically give it to you in words. Like, we all want to hear words, but sometimes she'll give you a vision, and sometimes she'll just give you a feeling to not take this, or that it's okay to take that. The lidocaine I do not see as a problem at all. Lidocaine, You know, as I say, I've worked in the medical industry, and lidocaine is just it just numbs the skin. That is all it is, and that's fine. And Sylvia says that she received resistance to take it, and that she's asking, what do I suggest for her thyroid? And I'm saying, ask your Kundalini to heal it, and ask your Kundalini to allow you to take the kind of nutrients that are required for you to have it, that allows you to develop a platform of healing that she can come in and heal for you. And be very, very careful about what it is you allow to come into your system. Make sure you always clear it with the Kundalini first. Always first, clear it with your Kundalini. And I want to thank you, Sylvia Giza, for your questions, because your questions help other people. And she continues, so I can open my hands. Other than that, I love my experience, and I feel pure love, peace, joy, and only see positive side of Kundalini, like Chrism said. Thank you, Chrism, for your great life, and thank you, Amelia, and all of you for this show. Wonderful, wonderful. And thank you, Sylvia, once again, for your question. So as a person has the Kundalini, and say they go into the dentist's office, they go into the doctor's office, check with the Kundalini first. She may not want you to take that SSRI or that selected serotonin reuptake inhibitor. She may not want you to have a certain chemical in your body that does not cohabitate well with the changes, the physiological changes that the Kundalini is bringing to you. It's very, very, very important that you understand that you are being physiologically transformed, and that includes the hormones. That includes the different brain chemistries that exist right now. And the MD and the dentist is always going to go for what they learned in their training, and they did not learn about Kundalini in their training, so they do not know. And if you say to an MD, "Oh, I don't want epinephrine in my system," well, he's going to go, "What do you know about epinephrine? What medical school did you go to?" And of course, you say, "I went to the Kundalini School of Medicine." and the next place you'll find yourself is the psych ward. So be careful. Be careful about what you allow into your system. It's very, very, very important that you let the Kundalini begin to sculpt your response. And Phil Karuba says, always look to nature's pharmacy first. And I agree. Because nature is the Kundalini. Mother Nature is Mother Shakti. People have a hard time connecting the dots there. But Mother Nature, the divine force that set up life on this world, the amazingly interconnected life on this world, is the divine forces. And those divine forces, I think you need to check with first, because you're becoming semi-divine. You'll be walking with one foot in heaven and one foot on the earth at the same time as your Kundalini continues to transform you. So do not resist this. As I mentioned before, if you had that wonderful, amazing career and you don't have it anymore, and you're trying to resist it, well, there's a good reason why you don't have it anymore. The fruit has fallen from the tree. It is now time to expand away from mundane living into the understandings that Kundalini can give to you. And Kundalini does do this for people. I mean, here in the States, some of the folks, they have kind of like what's the word? They come into this life with an agenda towards Kundalini. And so when the Kundalini phenomena comes to them, they're not frightened by it. They're okay with this, and they just kind of go with it. I think CL here, and I don't know if he wants me to say his last name. He wrote it in, so I'll say it. CL Morgan's had the Kundalini for like 30 years, and I don't know if he had a rough time with it at first, but I know that there's a fair amount of evidence that when people don't have information on it, they can have a difficult time. But I think that he was able to find levels of balance early on in his experience, and I think this can happen for everybody. Everybody can have a fairly balanced experience with this if they just begin to acclimate to it. And C.L. Morgan replies, he says, rough. He says, oh yes. So I take it all back, CL. I know I did too. One thing Sylvia also is mentioning is that it's hard to find authentic information. It's hard to find people who really know, as opposed to people who want to be known for what they think they know, i.e., people who are trying to self-aggrandize themselves into a Kundalini teacher, saying this or that, when their advice may be totally off center. And Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez is adding to this. She says, "I did not have a difficult time with it as a child, and until society taught me to have a difficult time." Good point, Elizabeth. I had a difficult time with it from the get-go. Being transported to the Amazon forest every night from birth to 13 years of age was quite traumatic for me. But evidently, I mean, I was allowed to be able to handle it. Here I am today. I'm not sure I'm successful, but I am alive and I'm living, and I'm able to give this information to people. So I guess there's certain, within Kundalini ideas of success, if that even exists within the Kundalini ideology. I'm still here and I'm doing this, and so there's some goodness coming from this. You've got to surrender to this. Whether you agree with what I'm saying or not, you still need to surrender with this. It's essential. And you cannot have continuous expectation of wanting the old life back, because this life is difficult, because you're resisting the transformation. That is what brings the darkness. That is what brings the shadows. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the difficult times that you can have with the Kundalini. And let's start with entities. I've done plenty of shows on this program about entities. When a person sees a discarnate or a spiritual being that does not have flesh, that is what the word discarnate means. It means without flesh. When you see a discarnate entity, climb through the wall or descend through the ceiling or something of that nature, doing something that doesn't conform with the laws of physics, that in and of itself can frighten you. And as you're afraid, that in and of itself, your fear itself, can begin to attract more of that which is frightening you. And the Kundalini will allow this to occur. And I'm going to ask you, why do you think she would allow that to occur? Ask the people in the chat room, why would this be allowed to occur? And I'm going to wait 1, 2, 3. It would be allowed to occur because of the levels of trust that she wants you to have in what she is doing with you. Sacred Mother wants you to trust her. She doesn't want you to try to reclaim your old life. She doesn't want the pear to jump back up and try to get on the branch again. She wants you to accept this new life, this beautiful life, this expanded life, and allow this life to enfold you in the many levels of bliss and grace and love and happiness and joy that it can. And this is very important, because a lot of us in the Western societies, we go through levels of pain, like say relationship pain. Let's say you've been with a spouse for 20, 25 years, whatever. And you've had a family, and you've had a career, and all of these things, and all of a sudden the Kundalini comes along and begins to divide your attention, and you have this new thing, and it's hard to explain to a spouse or things of that nature, and things can get very, very rocky and difficult for the relationship. And what I want you to do is I want you to go into that, and I want you to find levels of forgiveness and tolerance and patience and honesty and trust. And I want you to give that to the Kundalini in regards to the relationship, and watch how that relationship begins to blossom all over again in ways that you would have never thought were possible. This is hugely important. All right, and I see I'm going to come on over to Her Holiness, Miss Amelia Santara. Hello, Amelia.
Hello.
Hello, yes. Hello, Amelia.
I am here.
Do you have any questions, Miss Here?
Yes. Yes, I do. I shall begin with the first one. Okay, here we go.
All right.
Okay. Why is meditation practice necessary even after Kundalini Awakening?
Meditation practice is necessary because the physical body and the mental body, the emotional body, the psychological body, and the spiritual body still need to have a level of strength and exercise that allows each of those specific bodies to have specific communication with the Kundalini. The action of meditation is the action of communicating with the inner verse of the individual. The inner verse meaning that inner expanded area of divine expression within you. And so as you meditate, you in a very healthy way, depending on your meditation, in a very healthy way, you allow yourself to have continued and consistent communication with Kundalini, which opens up levels of communication that can provide you with many, many levels of information. And as you have more information, as I said before, information is power within the Kundalini. Information is power. The more information you have, the more you can surrender. The more you can surrender, the more you aid your transformation. The more you aid your transformation, the further you're able to go into the heavenly fields. And so meditation is a very necessary activity within the Kundalini. However, the Kundalini mother herself will stop you at times because meditation is also energetically generative. You will generate energy just by sitting still and meditating. And this is very contra to how we view our life. We view energetic generation as like the wind turbine with that the propeller going around and around and around really fast, or the turbines used in hydroelectrics, the turbine used in our cars and even in the computer with this fan going to bring the cool air into the laptop. We look at generation as a movement oriented scenario. And the scientific formula would probably be, and I'm not going to quote say the law of thermodynamics or anything like that, but A equals motion and B equals friction, A plus B equals C, energy. Well, with Kundalini, it's very, very different. As you go into meditation and as you still the monkey mind and you still the inner dialogue, you open up channels within yourself, within your divine self, and this brings up more energy. And sometimes that energy can just be too much. And she'll stop you from meditating. She'll stop you from praying. She'll stop you from doing the 5 Tibetans or any of the practice of the safety. She'll stop you from doing that too. And the safety protocols is a set of exercises, for those of you who don't know, a set of exercises that is on Kundalini Awakening Systems 1, that's the number 1.com. And if you go to the safeties option there on the left-hand side, it's about the 5th option down. You'll see safety protocols for Kundalini Awakening. And, they're extremely energetically generative, but they're also very, very balanced in having and holding the energy. Well, sometimes she doesn't want you to have any more energy. She wants you to process what you already have. And by processing what you already have, you begin to make room for more energy, which she will bring to you and allow you to do your practice later on. She's not stopping you forever. She's stopping you temporarily. But you got to understand, Sacred Mother is in control of this process within you. You're not. So if she gives you like a headache, typically you'll get a headache going down. If you go straight up from your nose and down to the back of your neck on the other side, split your head in half like that with your finger. If you go about 1 inch to 1.5 inches to either side, there's another channel there. There's an energetic channel there. And that channel can become very, very painful if you're putting too much energy into it. You can get these headaches from pushing too much energy into these channels. And I want you to pay very, very close attention to what the Kundalini is telling you to do. If you start to get a headache, then I want you to stop meditating, stop doing the safety, stop putting too much energy into that physical system so that you can give yourself a break, a day or two, whatever, maybe just a few hours, and you can find a level of equanimity within the processing that the energy and the Kundalini are doing within you. Okay, so it can be very, very necessary not to meditate, not to pray, not to do these things that are energetically generative in a way that we're not used to understanding the generation of energy. Over, Santara.
Thank you, Chrism. Why only less than 1% are in spirituality and want their Kundalini awakened?
Say again?
Yeah, it's the way it's expressed. Why only less than 1% are in spirituality want their Kundalini awakened?
Oh, want their Kundalini awakened. I'm not sure I agree with that percentage. That would be more along the lines of those who are awakened or awakening. For those who want it, I think there's a much higher percentage of those who want the Kundalini, but sometimes people want it for reasons that are associated with power, with notoriety, with ego, with self-aggrandizement, things of that nature. And it's typically not going to come to those people who want it for those reasons. For the people that already have it, it's still rare in the population, but that is changing. That is definitely changing. Even as we speak, that is changing because, as I said, there's a huge wave that is coming up that is going to be all about Kundalini. And, they already call it something different from Kundalini because they're trying to differentiate it so that they can add their own ego-based rules and expectations and theories and regulations and things like that to it. They call it ascension symptoms. Ascension symptoms, which are basically Kundalini symptoms called something else. A lot of people are going to be coming into this, and more people, by virtue of the internet and by virtue of interest in power. Often, we are propelled by our ego desire for want of gain to pursue specific spiritual interests that will give us notoriety, that will give us power, that will give us whatever it is we're seeking with regards to an unseen force that not everybody has. At least not everybody has awakened or activated within them. And so, it's not going to work with them to a large extent. And if it does work with them, it's going to be a very, very difficult ride because they're coming into it with a control vector rather than a surrendering control vector. And that can be very, 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 very difficult. So, yeah, please keep that in mind. Do we have a question? Is there a questioner, Santara? I see a 111 up top. I got two 111s. Are you still there, Santara?
Hi.
Hi. Who is this?
Okay, that's not me. Can you hear me, Chrism?
Yeah, but I also hear the questioner.
Okay, well, just before the questioner speaks, I want you to know that my number 1111 vanished from my Blog Talk studio, so I need you to control my coming and going, the red and the blue, okay?
Okay, very good. Very good. Thank you for letting me know. Questioner, what's your name?
Yvette.
Who?
Yvette.
I'm not getting that. It's cutting you off. But how may I help you, my dear?
So, I do Kundalini. I love it. I have my own personal experience with the Kundalini, but I want to ask you in regards to relationships. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. So, there's a man that's just I'm familiar with. I know him, and this kind of happened very recent within the last several months.
there's a connection building between us. And when he touches me, there's a vibration. I mean, this is the first time I probably had anything like this before, where there's a physical vibration between the both of us.
Okay. All right.
I guess I want to ask you in regards to question, what is that? And besides chemistry, and what is your philosophy on, like, I at this point, I don't call anything, I don't have a label for anything anymore. I don't call someone my twin flame or my soulmate. I'm just looking for the heart connection, what's real, what feels right. I think when you get caught up in a title, kind of spoils everything. I'm not sure. This is where I'm at. I don't know what your opinion is. And
well, what is your question?
I guess my question is, what I asked you the first time was the energy that between me and this person. Is that something you can answer? Like the vibration.
There's different energies when this would be a man and a woman, correct?
Right. Yeah.
Different energies when a man and a woman come together. The biological energies are magnetic in many ways, and if you have come in contact with an individual that strongly corresponds to the energy that is expressing through you and the energy that is expressing through that other individual, there can be a development of a magnetic force that is very powerful that can really make you not want to leave the presence of that individual. Is that what's happening?
Almost. It's getting there.
Yeah. I would, and I like what you said earlier about looking for authentic love rather than just, a fly-by-night type of situation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does the other person feel the same way?
We haven't even got to that point yet. Is we know each other in a spiritual environment, kind of, and it just happened all of a sudden. It's building, and it keeps building and building.
Just let it let that nourish itself. Let your Kundalini nourish you within that, and if the other person has Kundalini activated within themselves, let the Kundalini speak for the two of you at this point. Typically, you will be drawn to very, very strong levels of love and merging, but it may not be, for the replication of the species or for marriage or these types of things, but it just may be for that as well. And because it's so early in the process for you, I'm going to suggest that you take it slow, take it with strong levels of kindness and consideration and love, and look to the other individual to give you those same qualities, and basically see what your Kundalini wants to do with this. You understand what I'm saying? You're going to need to surrender to her agenda within you for him, and he may be part of that agenda. Certainly is at the moment.
Yeah, that's everything. Yeah, everything you just said is I already do. I'm already doing that.
Are they doing it as well?
Yeah.
So go with that and see what fruit that is going to develop for the two of you. Do I have a name for that? No, except that there is that magnetic pull. And Kundalini does have amplification qualities within itself. And so the magnetics that are developed between people that are very, very compatible with each other can be tremendously amplified from 1 to 1,000. And let that amplification take place. See where it goes with you. Release your expectations of what you want to see happen or what he may want to see happening. Release those expectations and allow and surrender to the Kundalini agenda within the both of you.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for calling in, my dear. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Love the show.
Okay. And I'm going to come back to Her Holiness here, Amelia Santara. Please continue with your questions.
Okay, Chrism, the next question is, what has the flower of life or the Merkaba got to do with Kundalini?
Merkaba, not much. Merkaba is an exophysiologic ideology propounded by some some of the Egyptian technologies, but also ancient Egyptian technologies, spiritual technologies, but also some of the current modern ones where certain channelers come together and say, well, I'm expressing, I am exalted Pharaoh Chrism, and I'm a 30,000-year-old entity, and I'm here to give you all this spiritual information because I really want to help you, and even though I could do that by coming into a physical being right now, I just choose to hijack somebody else's physical being because I'm just not interested in becoming a human again. There's that. And that level of information has come from a lot of these channelers. The Flower of Life book is one of them. Some guy parading around as an ancient Egyptian deity and saying that a Merkaba does this and the Flower of Life does that. Now, the Merkaba, people are trying to use it as a spaceship towards ascension where you can travel anywhere you want if you set up rotating oppositely directed pyramids within a human system. It doesn't work. It's not going to get you there. I mean, people that do are kind of having entity interaction or just kind of feeding their own fantasy. So the Merkaba, you can meditate inside of a Merkaba if you need to, but it's not there to be used by the mundane, egocentric consciousness. Has a very, very, very different quality for that. The Merkaba itself, used, understood in a fashion of clarity, is really a symbol of Kundalini Awakening. It's just like the Star of David too. That's another symbol of Kundalini Awakening. The difference between the two is one is using a pyramid and one is using a triangle. Okay, the Flower of Life, however, is quite different. Flower of Life is a symbol of the spine of an individual. It's the symbol of the 7 chakras, with the 6 on the outside, and if you have ever made a Flower of Life, and I suggest everybody make one. It's a very nice experience because there's a flow to it that is very conducive to the Kundalini. But as you connect the 6 circles, you'll notice that a 7th circle is developed in the middle of the connected 6, and that speaks very loudly to Kundalini Awakening. Whereas the 6 are connected, the 7th appears. Okay, and it can be a very, very powerful symbol for Kundalini Awakened people. And I believe, Santara, you have some pretty strong experiences with your Flower of Life. You have Santara has about a 30-foot wide Flower of Life on the land of her home in Kerry, Ireland, and it's all made out of stone. It's made out of native stone, and I'm going to let her talk a little bit about her experiences with her Flower of Life. Go ahead, Santara.
I will, Chrism. Indeed, it's a few years now since I made it, and it was on Chrism's suggestion or direction, and it was a fascinating thing to actually do. I'm trying to remember what the diameter for me for each of the circles was. I think it was either, it might have been 6 or 7 feet. And it's a really amazing thing to do. And I would just suggest to people that, you can do this in the sand because not everybody has the opportunity to make one in the earth as I did. But a lot of us can go to the beach and you could make one on the sand in the beach. And even though it's a temporary thing, it's a really interesting thing to do. But anyway, so I made mine from stones. And it's a permanent fixture there. And I use it as a place, and as Chrism says, it's within a 30 by 30 foot square, that's the space, and each one is 6 or 7 feet in diameter. And I meditate there when I'm in Kerry. I lived down there for 4 years. I went into it practically every day and often during the night. And my Kundalini really, and it was a very sacred space for me, and to meditate there, to sit there, to walk around it, to do some practice out there.
I've had Santara walk around her Flower of Life at the height a huge storm that Ireland gets a lot of. I mean, this is just shrieking rain and wind and hail and just wonderful. And I'll have Santara go out like 1 or 2 in the morning without clothing and walk around the flower of life in specific directions. Was it okay to say that, Santara?
Yes, of course. You said it before. Yes, I mean, I sometimes think Chrism has a sort of a deal, or he just has to mention that he's going to give me a direction in the storm. So many times I've been out, you've directed me to go out, and yeah, I mean, it's an incredible thing because it happens. You've asked me to do this in the winter. And I've been out there in sleet, I've been out there in pelting rain, and as you say, unclothed. And it's amazing how the Kundalini responds to that because I don't get cold. I don't get the flu. I don't, it is incredible. As a matter of fact, I'm very warm, and I can feel the coldness of the wind or the frost or the hail on me. And I've also been out there on the stillest of nights with the full moon. Yes. Oh my gosh, I want to go there now. And Kundalini, communicates to me, and it's just beautiful. It's beautiful. And again, I mean, if a person has access to the beach Chrism, because a few people were interested in it and wanted to know how it was constructed. And I went to the beach with them, and we got a stick, and I showed them how it was done, and they did their own. And it was really fascinating to see the circles, and you can do it as a meditation, each of the 6, and then you discover the 7th. And I mean, if you had a couple of hours, you were able to go.
And it actually, I'm getting more information about that right now. When you draw that onto the earth, it sends an energetic projection into the cosmos. So just an FYI.
Yeah, it certainly does. It most certainly does. I think that's all the sharing. It was one thing. It was one of these things that, was it 2010 that you asked me to do that? And I remember at the time, and there was a lot of other things involved in doing that as well, because there was, let's say, damage done to the land that was belonging to my husband's family for a few generations. And this was part of healing and love and forgiveness that was brought this whole thing. And I collected, there had been a lot of very big standing stones that had been dynamited a generation previously. And some of the stones, were shattered. And that was very painful to that whole area. And the flower of life that is there now, that has been created with the stones that I gathered, that has been a very, very healing and good thing for that land down there. And that whole experience.
I'll suggest people put a flower of life in your garden. Put a flower of life on your lawn. All you need is a string and 2 sticks, and you can make a flower of life with perfect circles. That's how I would make it. Yes, you can. Yeah.
Yes, you can. And they don't have to be as large, They can be small.
No. They're beautiful, beautiful, beautiful things. Well, thank you, Amelia, for sharing with us your experience with that. Are there other questions? I don't want to. We're down to 15 now.
I've got quite a few, so just stop me when you. I can bring them into next week. There's a question about why is it that sometimes a person will sleep for very long periods within a Kundalini process?
The Kundalini can force a person to begin to sleep. So, for instance, here's something that really goes against our understandings of energy and the law of thermodynamics and things of that nature. Sometimes when we get too much energy, we won't get the headache that I told you on either side of the skull. We will want to go to sleep. she will induce up to sleep for up to 14, 15 hours to allow our consciousness to sleep while she processes the energy within our bodies, within our expression, within the radiance that is fountaining out around us. It's certainly within the activated state. Before a spinal sweep takes place, a person can have very, very strong levels of what's the word? Fatigue. It feels like fatigue, and a lot of this is where you get the whole chronic fatigue syndrome. But there are also environmental causes for that as well. But the Kundalini will give you a form of its own fatigue, so that she kind of puts the child to sleep, puts the child down in a kind of like maybe a dimly lit room, and puts the blanket over the child, and she begins to help to process that energy within the person. And this may happen over and over and over again. It's not a one-time deal. Sometimes, alternatively, that person will have so much energy they don't need but maybe 2 or 3 hours of sleep a night. And so what you see here is you see, once again, the expanding levels of life interaction within a terrestrial and divine matrix. In order for a person to have any connection to a divine matrix, they're going to have their I'm chasing a word right now. Their spectrum expanded. They're going to have the spectrum of their terrestrial life expanded in order to hold the Kundalini, and they're also going to have the Kundalini natures within their self expanded to bring more in. And sometimes that's going to involve great and much longer than expected levels of slumber, so that this processing can begin. Because, when the ego consciousness is alive and awake within the individual during the waking day, whatever that is for an individual, day or night, when they're awake and they're working that way, many times they can block. Without knowing, they can block some of the processing that's going on through harsh emotions that may be happening, or entities, whatever it is. It can get in the way of what she wants to be done at that time, and so she'll just put you to sleep, and you won't be able to fight it. You can have caffeine till the cows come home, but you're going to sleep, my friend. You're going to sleep, and so surrender into that. Allow that to occur. Don't get in the way of your own process. And I'll finish that right there and go on to the next one, please.
Okay, Chrism. On the group, a member shared about how you appeared in her dreams, and another member said that you have on the group, the Facebook group, a member shared how you appeared in her dreams. Yes. And another member shared that, you have appeared in many of her dreams. And you said that sometimes one must give themselves to the Shakti through the teacher. Could you speak a little bit about this, please?
Yeah. It's not because I'm like a super special individual and, I just like fly into people's dreams. More along the lines of that the information that's coming to people through me is good information. It's what the Kundalini wants to have come through. And she knows that a person's waking consciousness is not necessarily going to listen to the Kundalini consciousness coming through them. She knows that sometimes they're going to need a physical teacher, one that they can see, touch, hear, and communicate with directly on the phone or on Skype or in person. They're gonna need that level of reassurance, that level of validation to their current existence, that allows them to go to a teacher and receive information, receive energy, receive understanding, receive bliss, receive levels of Kundalini that allow that person to progress along their path. And one of the things that she does with that is she brings me into their consciousness. She brings, I'll just say, the Chrism into their process, and it's perfectly legitimate, really. I don't go there, but my consciousness does not go there. My Kundalini consciousness can go there, and that consciousness can begin to help a person, to teach a person, and allow that person to surrender to their Kundalini by virtue of a teacher, and by virtue of the teachings that that teacher is giving to them. And it allows their surrender to be much more sustainable, stronger, longer lasting, and helpful to them as they manifest what the Kundalini within them wants to manifest. And it allows the five-body system to come to a familiar standard of receiving information. We've all had teachers in our physical lives. I remember spending hours and hours and hours, bored to tears, in a classroom from the age of from second grade all the way up through college, listening and just trying not to sleep and looking at the clock. And so we've all been kind of had that experience ingrained within us to look to a teacher to give us information. And because of that psychological programming, the Kundalini just uses that. She just uses that and allows that to become the status quo for a person that is struggling, perhaps struggling with the Kundalini and in need of a physical teacher. And I'm certainly not saying that, Mr. Chrism is, he's semi-divine now and he can do whatever he wants, and so he comes in and he invades people's dreams. And I've got another friend who says, did you stormtroop my dream last night, forcing my way into a person's dream? Well, no, I would never, ever, ever do that. That's not ethical. It's not moral. And so I would not do that. But the Kundalini will. She definitely will. And many thanks to you, Sylvia, for being a wonderful student as well. And she just said, you are my wonderful teacher. And she put a little heart there. And you should thank your Kundalini, Sylvia. Kundalini Awakened. Hello. Okay. Is this Santara? Hello? Is this a questioner? All right, I'll put you in the blue where you can listen here. Okay, and I think Santara got bumped off again. And since we have about 7 minutes left, I am okay with that. And so I would just like to thank everybody who participated. I'd like to thank Laranya and Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez. I'd like to thank Rosemary. I'd like to thank Brooke. And I'd like to thank the caller whose name I never really got. I'd like to thank everybody who is called in and who is in the chat room. Walsh, Pug Mama, C.L. Morgan, Vincent, Sylvia, Guest 1387, 1267, Emma Travis, Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez, Bartlomiage, and Alana Seeker. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us in this program. And if you're interested, I would like to let you know that you can come here anytime, or at least you can go to the archives and you can repeat this program if you missed anything or if you want to, see it again. Other informational sources for this information is Kundalini Awakening Systems1.com, Kundalini Awakening ! On Facebook, Kundalini Awakening Systems 2 on Facebook, Kundalini Awakening Systems 3 on Facebook. We have two groups on the Yahoo network, and that would be Kundalini Awakening Systems 1 at Yahoo Groups, Kundalini Healing at Yahoo Groups. We also have Kundalini Awakening ! On the Google Plus network. And I invite you to any of those groups and any of those communities. You can also get a hold of me privately on the personal email, which is kfireforall@yahoo.com, and that's KFIREFORALL@yahoo.com. And you can also we have about 342 videos on the YouTube video network. And so if you go and you just put in Chrism Kundalini and that channel will come up, and you can see and hear and feel the Kundalini in many of those videos. And so I encourage anybody that wants more information about this to go there. I just want to say thank you to everyone for joining us this day in this way with this program. Thank you very much. And I'll end it like I started it, everybody. Here we go.